Plus, new efforts tonight to restrict transgender athletes participating in school sports. What lawmakers are considering tonight. And that is our top story here at 4:30. Thanks for being with us.
That's right. So Georgia senators set out guidelines today for possible new laws surrounding the participation of transgender athletes in school sports. 11 Live's Doug Richards joining us live from the Capitol. So Doug, is this an effort to keep people born male from participating in women's sports?
Yes, it basically comes down to that. It is a situation that is currently overseen and prohibited by an outfit called the Georgia High School Association. But the Senate committee this morning said that it wants that entity to stop regulating it and for it to be written in state law instead.
I think it's indisputable. I know that it's indisputable. Actually, I'm not going to say I think. I know that it is indisputable that there are biological differences between men and women.
The Republican-led Senate Study Committee came up with a list of recommendations to restrict transgender participation in school sports. It urged new laws defining sports based on an athlete's biological sex at birth. It would include public schools and extend it to include private schools that compete with public schools. The law would restrict bathroom access based on birth gender. It would provide civil procedures for grievances and would withhold state funding from schools that don't comply. And it would prevent the Georgia High School Association and others from enacting such rules, instead writing them into state law.
I was surrounded by many who understood this was wrong.
The committee's recommendations come after sometimes emotional hearings in which collegiate women swimmers complained about competing against a transgender athlete at a tournament at Georgia Tech.
You're hurting these transgender kids, and I think it's politically motivated.
It also comes as transgender activists argued that the proposed solutions were disproportionate to the problem in Georgia.
I've heard from a lot of legislators who are supportive of categorical bans who are unable to identify a single transgender athlete in their state, much less a transgender girl in their state.
I recognize that there are passions on both sides of this issue.
Though committee members said they respected the viewpoint of transgender activists, the recommendations came down strongly against them.
I hope that we can recognize that we can do two things at one time. We can both treat people respectfully, but we can also have an eye towards fairness in the legislative process.
Yeah, so Doug, so right now we know that these are just recommendations. What's next here?
Well, presumably legislation would follow the recommendations. The General Assembly's 2025 session opens 1 month from today, and it is reasonable to presume that actual legislation will be introduced pretty quickly.
All right, Doug Richards live for us. Thank you so much, Doug. We also know that this issue could get more national attention under the new Trump administration. In April of last year, the Republican-controlled House passed a bill that would ban transgender athletes from women's and girls' sports at federally funded schools. It had no chance of making it past Democrats in the Senate. And President Joe Biden threatened to veto it if it made it to his desk. It could see some new life now that Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House.